However, to counteract this anti-light, a growing number of activists, whistleblowers, contactees, writers, researchers, and people who refuse to be part of the system have discovered that many dark, top-secret programs continue to be active. Some of these classified programs involve the Antarctic, the enigmatic, mysterious continent that remains largely unknown, where intriguing colossal pyramids and very peculiar rocks have been discovered as its glaciers thaw. Similarly, an enormous freshwater lake that was found lying beneath a thick layer of ice. And many people find it surprising that these things have been completely ignored by all the researchers who have traveled to this inhospitable and barren land of the South Pole. What is most startling, however, is that as a portion of the vast Antarctic region begins to thaw, its topography is revealing an enormous region that strangely coincides with an ancient map of the territory by Turkish Admiral Piers Reis that shows the continent without ice cover. To the wonder of modern-day geologists who still fail to understand how 500 years ago he was able to create a map that corresponds so closely to the land under the ice. Was this huge icy region near the extreme tip of South America once host to a highly advanced antediluvian civilization, established prior to the prehistoric polar shift? Or why else are so many matters coming to light that surprise geologists, geodesic scientists, glaciologists, and a whole variety of experts who are dumbfounded and unable to explain them? So, if this is the case, did that extremely prosperous culture have terrestrial origins? Or were they extraterrestrial, as some researchers, historians and writers claim with absolute certainty? Another extraordinary fact is that this ice-covered continent hosts none other than gigantic pyramids that are man-made and are very similar to those in Egypt. And many are surprised by the fact that many of them are just like those found in ancient Mexico or other extremely ancient structures that are now being discovered throughout the world. Is this simply another coincidence of the many that exist, or is there a connection between these structures through extremely ancient geomagnetic lines? Is it possible that these mysteriously connected geomagnetic alignments were astutely used by ancient inhabitants to charge themselves with synchronic bioenergies? In addition to these geomagnetic alignments and the mysterious pyramids, it would seem that there is a fairly constant common denominator that connects them together, which denotes the existence of highly powerful energies that have been used since ancient times to channel these elevated vibrational frequencies through the dolmens and menhirs around the globe. As far as our planet's overall geography is concerned, these striking recent discoveries in Antarctica have no plausible explanation to date. This is very important to know because it is said that this intense electromagnetic polar energy was thoroughly exploited by a select group of Nazis in order to re-establish their lost hegemonic power across the globe, as we will later see. Could this be the reason official archaeologists, explorers and geologists say absolutely nothing about their findings? keeping them under wraps, because the elite have not authorized any mention of them. Have they hidden evidence of an extraterrestrial race that built upon ancient structures, surrounded by lush plant and animal life, whose origins have been lost over time? Although these structures once belonged to a very ancient terrestrial culture, buried beneath the ice, following the last deglaciation of the magnetic and geographic poles. If this is not so, where do its deep caves and tunnel system with no traceable end lead? Is it possible their depths may really host a warm zone that has been used for the creation of alien bases? Operative and highly active for quite some time. Indeed, we are referring to a rather unusual top-secret operational installation called New Swabia or New Schwabenland, completely hidden from the entire world. And although no official mention is ever made of these mysterious operational bases that are well protected and hidden deep within the vast continent of Antarctica, we have no doubt that it hosts something that goes beyond any kind of secrecy and false theories that are completely devoid of supporting evidence. We are referring to a series of elaborately clandestine moves that directly involve the secret space program, which has been kept secret since it was founded, and works from Antarctica to support other programs and groups of entities who possess highly advanced technology. It also provides us with a basic point of reference, indicating that something is buried deep beneath the ice caps of this colossal unexplored continent, filled with mystery and many untold secrets. With regards to this mysterious austral continent and its hidden, well-disguised bases that were occupied by the aliens and Nazis, has a highly advanced civilization, as we discussed earlier, really remained camouflaged and well hidden beneath the deep and impenetrable ice since time immemorial? Why have there been so many mysterious cover-ups involving this enormous icy wasteland that is seemingly uninhabited? Is it possible that many public figures and celebrities who have visited the region on undisclosed business prefer not to provide detailed accounts of all the veiled secrets found there? Do they simply put on a front or hush up the situation so that it will go unnoticed, and the unwary general public will consider everything to be totally normal? What is the real reason that so many celebrities travel to this giant, icy austral region? A list that includes prestigious politicians, religious leaders, astronauts, and even heads of state. Important for us to understand that the reality surrounding Antarctica and its vast mysteries goes beyond mere tourism, reconnaissance or exploration, or an attempt to find the causes behind the global warming affecting this overlooked continent, as most people may mistakenly believe. Instead, it lies at the foundations of a huge scheme involving the remains of an extremely ancient antediluvian civilization. And the presence of several mysterious and technologically advanced bases that support alien beings who appear to have been living deep beneath the ice caps for a very long time. But what is most surprising is that these underground bases are part of an alien corporation that belongs to the mysterious Dark Fleet. And these installations connect to a subaquatic base created by aliens and given to the Nazis before the end of World War II. We are referring to a highly sophisticated tube shuttle system that connects underwater to Antarctica. This is how, from a southerly point in Patagonia, they connect this secret installation with the base of the Draco aliens, which is situated in Antarctica. We are detailing a covert space program that belongs to the SSP, or Secret Space Program Alliance, with which the Solar Warden program is also affiliated. In addition to this mysterious secret subaquatic network between Antarctica and the departure point of the select group of Nazis, the US, alongside Nazi Germany, also devised a covert program which enabled them to secretly operate during World War II, called Operation Paperclip. A program whose purpose was to relocate top Nazi scientists and military officials to the United States by means of a Black Ops project. So, as soon as the World War was over, Nazi officials created the Odessa Network so that their visible branch could escape the Nuremberg trials. And a hand-picked group of Nazi leaders from all over Europe, including Hitler himself, departed for South America, as we discussed in depth in documentaries 17 and 18. Although this was the case, did they create the mysterious Operation Odessa with another specific and well-hidden objective? Research indicates that its purpose was to build and establish the Fourth Reich. And in order to reach this coveted goal, they completely militarized the governments ruling South America at that time. They settled on a prodigious and lush continent, which made it much easier for them to form connections with the extreme tip of South America and later Antarctica. This is not the only feature of the mysterious Odessa network, however. The Vatican and the then Pope collaborated in order that it was successful. So, the Catholic Church, in addition to its widespread and unconditional support of Nazism, also forged thousands of fake passports which enabled many Nazis to leave for South America. Another part of these occult missions was linked to the space programs Secretum Omega and the Jesuit VATT network. Although at the time many people accused the Vatican and the Church of pouring huge sums of money into these top-secret projects, Pius XII received direct assistance from the secret Vatican government throughout the 1940s. That is to say, that the most inflexible and influential nucleus of the Roman Apostolic Curia issued orders by which anything pertaining to extraterrestrial contacts, including those taking place at that time, was to be hushed up. The Nazis' objective was not merely to settle in South America, but to establish bases in Antarctica and create a far more covert and mysterious program called Anarnub, which was launched prior to World War II to use mediums and different kinds of paranormal sciences in an attempt to investigate their Aryan origins. This was carried out at a secret castle, because due to their growing ultranationalism, they had a pressing need to know about the origins of their Aryan Germanic race. At the same time, they relentlessly conducted archaeological expeditions and anthropological or ethnological research in various countries around the world in search of sacred relics that would provide them with a direct link to their coveted Aryan origins. In this way, they conducted rituals within the secret societies, foul and real, with the belief that these methods would enable them to attract their so-called Aryan gods and allow them to make contact with them. Using these cultish rituals, as well as other esoteric practices and occult sciences, and through the channeling of a medium, they made contact with a group of alien entities that answered them using automatic writing and proclaimed to be their gods. Yet, besides these mysterious practices involving mediums, necromancers, Kabbalistic astrologers, and spiritualists, why were the Nazis so anxious to find the origins of their ancestral Aryan race and demonstrate the purity of their Germanic Teutonic blood? Did it have anything to do with the powerful black magic and strange esoteric rituals practiced during the Second World War? In order to achieve successful results, did they also contact a mysterious necromancer from a dark sect within Tibet, whom they called the Lama with Green Gloves? Was this how their ultranationalistic doctrine was born, with the purpose of creating a new race of superhuman Aryans who would control the entire world? In addition to their coveted quest to recover and redeem what was supposed to be the new Nordic, Aryan, Germanic race that had been lost, Hitler's party also incentivized the populace to have more children and to be stronger, highly competitive, and patriotic. While the Führer, overcome with irrepressible megalomania, would give his long speeches in a frenzied and overexcited state, demonstrating all kinds of eccentricities. These strange and irascible reactions would trigger a paranoid state that was akin to total madness, and very similar to a hypnotic trance, which would profoundly move the instigated masses. Yet, there is another aspect which is striking for researchers and historians that goes beyond the Führer's egocentric and megalomaniacal behavior. Namely, why did they use the swastika, the chalice, the dagger, and other very distinctive insignia as the fundamental symbols of Nazism? could it be because these symbols were very similar to those found in ancient Indo-European and Tibetan cultures, and their purpose was to readopt sacred emblems that bore a similarity to those used by these ancient peoples. If this was the case, why were several of these sacred and multicultural symbols later modified and adapted to fit their new extremely dark racial religion? Was their real purpose to generate a negative energy field which enabled them to invert and transform the channeling effects of these symbols, and thus have the same effect on the chakras and vortexes of the entire population and the planet itself? Let us not forget that during that era, Nazi Germany was awash with widespread esoteric devotion, directed specifically towards the dark and sinister. Such was the case of the commander of the SS, who was the most devout Nazi of all when it came to practicing occultism, which involved satanic rituals and worshipping the Lord of Darkness. This is why the order he founded was known as the Black Order, and why the uniforms of SS military officials, in addition to being black, were also decorated with runic, occult or pagan symbols. They also fervently studied the runes to predict fortune and to plan attacks and devise strategies that were to be followed during the war. Beyond these maneuvers brimming with darkness and occult fanaticism, as we have already discussed, were they really able to contact and communicate with their alleged Aryan gods through the dark practices of the famous channeling mediums working at that time? Were the various messages received in Sumerian actually directly linked to the ancient Babylonian and Mesopotamian gods we have already discussed in other documentaries? Although archival evidence surrounding these matters is coming to light, we must also explain that it was precisely these contacts, as well as pictures of certain blueprints containing formulas for building self-levitating air propulsion ships, that made the secret societies Thule and Real decide it was best for them to function clandestinely. So, to ensure that everything would remain shrouded in total secrecy, they established an even more secretive and rigorous SS called Black Sun. These steps were taken so that this new racial religion of the Black Sun would become a means through which the recently arrived aliens could manifest themselves. Thus, they began to adhere to this completely anonymous new group called the Black Sun, that was concealed from the majority of the Nazis, including government officials, and they asked their new alien leaders to provide them with more sophisticated weaponry, as well as with Thor's hammer, and the bell created to open portals that would enable them to teletransport. In return, these foreigners of extraterrestrial descent demanded a genetic exchange and wanted a settlement in Antarctica, in order that they could create a direct connection between the Nazis and their alleged gods, which would enable them to receive orders and establish their coveted Fourth Reich, as we have already discussed. We also know that the dark metaphysical and technological maneuvers between the Nazis and the aliens enabled them to move forward with their objectives, giving them supremacy and dominion to initiate what would be the Illuminati, Bavarian Nazi Empire, whilst ceding 75% of the Earth to the aliens so that they could have control of the global population in exchange for the remaining 25%, which would be for the new empire, acquiring the technology the aliens provided. We must also mention that these moves were made behind the United States' back, and in response to its having been offended, the US government departed for the Antarctic to reclaim its power and control through what was called Operation High Jump. Those sources say it was an outright failure due to the Nazi alien spacecraft and aquatic vessels, which in a matter of minutes destroyed a large part of the Americans' aircraft and vessels. Did this colossal disaster suffered by the United States at the hands of the alien Nazis result in a powerful coalition, laying the foundations for an agreement to be reached? A pact was made that established an alliance so solid that it would enable the Nazis to infiltrate the entire United States. And through this union, they developed extremely advanced space technology and the SSP, or Secret Space Program, that we will explain in more detail in a later documentary, which, a few years later, would enable President Eisenhower to contact other alien entities, who began abducting thousands of American citizens, with the purpose of hybridizing them and placing them at the service of the empire that now governs the entire planet. If we reflect in depth, we will be able to realize that something lies deep beneath the surface that official sources censor and refuse to report. In other words, it is as if no one should mention anything about what is hidden in the Antarctic, or disclose the dark Nazi-generated movement that has pervaded it. Nonetheless, the imperialist elite is obliged to disclose all of the secret programs we have detailed in this documentary, so that the whole world can gain this knowledge, because this is part of the commitment they have with humanity to disclose everything. And they must fulfill this resolute and urgent agreement, because with each passing day, more and more people are waking up to the truth. This means that all of our viewers who accompany us and truly yearn for internal change on a psychological and internal level, and in their daily lives, must open their eyes to reality. For as long as they recodify their DNA through the light of pure knowledge, they will be able to verify many inconceivable things for their own evolution. Yet, as we have emphasized on several occasions, there is no other solution but to awaken our indolent consciousness, so that we may form part of the amazing and luminescent new era of the photon.